Jeff Wittek was supposed to go on the H3 podcast this week to talk about his falling out with David Dobrik, and everyone was really excited for it. The last time they had Jeff on, he was still protecting David and didn't want to say anything too damaging that could paint David in a bad light. But something happened between Ethan and Jeff, and now the episode is canceled and a police report has even been filed. It's a mess, so let's get into it. As you guys already know, last week Jeff finally decided to stop protecting David and told the internet how he really feels about him.
You would have got deported. You would have got put in jail for murder. You could have got sued for everything. I took it on the chin, and then to see this, and that just made me completely lose all respect for this guy.
It started off with Jeff saying David never texted him after his most recent surgery, calling him a fake friend during his live stream. Once the live stream got out and more people started talking about it, Jeff had to properly address the situation. He posted a video to his Jeff FM YouTube channel titled, "Dear David." Jeff revealed 3 reasons why he decided to no longer support David. The first reason was the fact that David never texted him after his surgery to see if he was okay. Jeff said there was a huge chance that he would go blind from the surgery, yet David couldn't even text him to see how it went. David was posting on Instagram stories and having the time of his life traveling with all of their mutual friends. Yet Jeff was stuck in the hospital because of David's actions. The second reason was the fact that David was defaulting on paying his medical bills. David promised he would cover all of Jeff's medical expenses, but Jeff said that he started falling behind. Since the bills are in Jeff's name and David is paying them, it started to negatively affect Jeff's credit score. He said he recently went to purchase a house and he wasn't able to because of the missed medical payments. The third reason was huge. David is apparently doing a documentary with Casey Neistat about all of his past scandals, and he blamed the whole situation on Jeff. Casey called Jeff to let him know that David blamed the situation on him just to give him a heads up, and Jeff was shocked. Apparently, David blamed the accident on Jeff being crazy and wanting to do crazy things. Jeff has been getting tons of support over his video, and a lot of people want Jeff to take legal action against David for creating an unsafe work environment. So where does Ethan come into all of this? Well, Ethan really wanted to have Jeff come on the podcast and talk about David. They had him on last year during Frenemies, and the episode was a disaster. Jeff was still protecting David, and he was way too defensive when anyone brought him up in any kind of negative way. Ethan and Jeff kind of developed a rocky relationship after that episode. I think Jeff was a bit embarrassed at how bad he looked on the show, and Ethan was annoyed by how much he was protecting David. Despite their rocky relationship, Jeff agreed to do the show, and he was supposed to be on sometime this week. Unfortunately, we have a bit of a Nikocado avocado situation on our hands. After Jeff agreed to do the interview, Ethan reacted to Jeff's Dear David video, and he had a lot to say about Jeff's friend. While Jeff was telling his story, the camera kept panning over to his friend, and his friend would be like on his phone, looking down, and sometimes even lifting weights. When Ethan was reacting to the video, he kept bringing up how funny it was that Jeff's friend was working on his biceps while Jeff is telling this traumatizing story.
Hang on, there's something happened on Twitter. Hang on. Yo, check this tweet out.
And I have to admit, it was pretty funny. I actually thought it was done on purpose. It kind of reminded me of The Office when they pan over to someone and they just blankly stare at the camera in silence. I think Jeff and his friend were doing it on purpose, but Ethan thought it was just his friend being heavily distracted. Ethan actually got a lot of backlash from this episode. People were saying that his friend isn't a social media person and he was just there for moral support and didn't know how to act. Ethan making fun of Jeff's friend was cringe. I'm glad that Dan and AB kept telling him to stop. How can Ethan still be shocked that guests don't want to come on his show when he talked about them so excessively? I'ma be honest, if I was Jeff watching the segment of this podcast on his video, I would not want to come on the show. I would think Ethan would take everything as a joke and not give me the space to actually speak. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. Ethan hyper-focused way too much on everything but the issue. Shout out to the team for trying to keep him in line. Peace and love. Ethan's take on Jeff's friend was not the hot take he thought it was. Everyone was afraid that Jeff was gonna cancel, just like Nikocado did. A lot of people were telling Ethan that he needs to watch what he says if he wants these guests to actually come on. Well, what happened was actually way worse than Nikocado. Jeff's friends saw Ethan's video and didn't appreciate Ethan's jokes towards him. He went on Instagram and posted 2 stories that said, "Ethan, you don't know me, son, at H3 Productions. Keep running your mouth." And then he showed one of a calendar and it said on the 25th, "Take out Ethan Klein. Beef war." Now, from these posts alone, most people kind of got the feeling that he was just joking around and playing into the back and forth Ethan was creating with Jeff. But then things got really scary. Jeff's friend posted a video driving by Ethan's house showing the outside of the house and his car with his license plate. He posted it to his public story. It was then shared and seen by tons of people. He ended up deleting it, but it was too late. People already saw it, and that puts Ethan and his family in a really dangerous situation. Ethan and Hila just had a newborn baby. They have a young son at home, and they live in a gated community for safety. The fact that this guy that they've never met before somehow got into their neighborhood and invaded their privacy and put their safety at risk is extremely alarming. Jeff's friend has been very vocal about not loving the whole influencer culture, so who knows what his intentions were by driving by. And when you have a family and a baby, you need to protect that before anything. Even if this guy isn't big into the influencer culture, since his best friend is an influencer, he should understand the importance of privacy. Ethan addressed the situation in his newest video and said he made the decision to cancel the interview. Ethan said this all happened on Friday and he had to call the police and file a report. Ethan also did a little bit of digging with the security at the gate, and they found out that this wasn't the first time his friend drove by the house. They have him on camera driving by on Thursday, a day before Ethan ever even mentioned his friend.
Also, yeah, what's interesting to note is that, so this guy, he posted a video to his Instagram stories, one in the daytime of him driving by the house and one in the nighttime. So we did a whole ops situation. And then so the first drive-through, it turns out happened Thursday morning before we ever mentioned him.
Yep.
So I was goofing on Jeff the first time, you guys remember, and so his homie, before I even mentioned him, came and drove by our house.
Yeah.
To threaten me and my family.
Which makes sense, being that the day before, Jeff put out that video and said, "Don't worry about giving us your address."
Yeah.
We have.
I thought
Ethan was starting to connect the dots, and he remembered that during Jeff's Dear David video, he said this about collabing with Ethan.
Don't worry about sending over the address. I already got it.
Is that a joke? Like, that's what I'm saying. He goes, "I'm not a criminal. I just know where you live."
Ethan said he thought it was just a joke, but apparently not. He doesn't think a joke about lifting weights during a podcast is enough to actually show up at someone's house. Not once, but twice. Ethan and the crew said it's crazy because they were all Team Jeff. They felt bad for him when they were watching his video, and they wanted to get him on the show to tell his story, and they even wanted to set Jeff up with really good lawyers. The crazy thing is, Ethan even reached out to Jeff and apologized for taking the jokes way too far before any of this happened. Even though a lot of people are upset that the Jeff interview isn't happening, most people can understand that it's probably for the best. At the end of the day, Ethan has to protect his family's safety, and things went way too far. Here's what people had to say. Was really rooting for Jeff, but this was wrong. This family didn't deserve this. Deep down, Jeff has to believe that, or he's not any different than Dobrik. So they can handle David's torture, but not Ethan's teasing. There goes all sympathy anyone had for Jeff. Now, I don't think all sympathy is totally gone for Jeff. He can still be a victim of David Dobrik, while also maybe not making the best decisions online. I think we can recognize what Jeff's friend did was wrong, while also still thinking Jeff is a victim of David's vlogs in an unsafe work environment. Jeff also put his own statement out about what happened. During a live on Patreon, he said that he was the one that said he wasn't going on the podcast, and he doesn't know why Ethan is saying it's because of the police report.
Jeff, are you going on H3's podcast? No, I'm not going on there. I told him I'm not going on. I don't know why he's saying now it's because he made a police report and all this stuff.
Jeff said that he realized after Ethan's reaction video that their sense of humor doesn't align with each other.
I decided after I realized when he reacted to my thing that our sense of humor just don't align.
He also said that he didn't like that Ethan was poking fun at his friend, who he claims struggles with schizophrenia and other issues.
And he poked a lot of shots at my friend who is mentally disabled and schizophrenic. And what do you expect when you keep with a guy who spent more than half his life in prison and doesn't do internet stuff? He's just sitting here because he was here that day. He's not even
really associated with the
yeah, at all. He's just my friend that is my childhood friend that I like keeping around. And yeah, I needed somebody to vent to rather than it be 10 of us in a room just trash talking.
He also feels like Ethan makes cheap and lazy jokes and never seems to understand his humor.
You'd be so good on H3. Yeah, everything I say, every time I'm joking around, he just doesn't get it. And he stops the videos on the wrong parts. And his takes on things are always so just lazy jokes, just cheap stuff that he does not. I don't know. I'm not.
There's a team of like 5 people that are always
The teams. I honestly like some of the team. Some of them. They were even trying to check him, like, "Hey, you're making fun of a disabled person that's sick. Maybe just."
Finally, Jeff said he's for sure not going on the show and he wants to move on to his normal content and doesn't want to go on an I Hate David Dobrik world tour.
He said today in the podcast that he's still Team Jeff, and so did his team. Cool. That's nice. But I don't think we'll be going on. No, well, we're not going on. I'm going to Vegas this weekend for the fight, and that was when we were supposed to do it anyway, and I'm excited for that. I don't want to be doing any more stuff that's too serious in these videos. I want to get back to editing our vlogs and our barbershops we have coming out. We got some big surprises for that. I'm not doing any press tour on.
After seeing how Jeff handled the situation, a lot of people are happy that episode isn't happening anymore. Sounds like Jeff is victim blaming Ethan for his friends stalking his home. His schizophrenia has nothing to do with his actions. He was literally filming and stalking Ethan's family home, where he has kids and 2 dogs, and you're not gonna apologize for that? Jeff is once again sticking up for a friend's behavior. I admire loyalty, but there's a line, dude, and if he can't see it, then he clearly agrees with his friend's behavior, David included. I agree with Jeff that Ethan didn't really watch the video. In key points Jeff was making, Ethan completely missed because he was too busy trying to be funny. Ethan's team even tried to get him to stop and he wouldn't. With all of that being said, in no world is it ever acceptable to go to someone's home, let alone post on the internet for everyone to see. Super bummed the interview is not gonna happen, but also not really surprised. And yeah, that's the thing. Ethan did title his video using Jeff's name, but only talked about Jeff for such a small portion of the show. Since it was close to the end of the show, Ethan was skipping around and missing all the good parts and was just focusing on Jeff's friend. A lot of people actually called him out for this though. They felt like if he was gonna title the video using Jeff's name, he should actually sit down and watch the video and react to it. Not skip around, miss all the good parts, and instead spend his time making fun of someone who's not even really an internet person. But the jokes were pretty harmless, and nothing he said justifies what Jeff's friend did. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about everything down below, and I'll see you next time.